So continuing with my professional movie reviews, which I particularly enjoy doing because it gives me a chance to talk about other movies that aren't necessarily based on superheroes, although the movies I'm talking about are based on comic books. So today I thought I'd talk about the Kingsman movies. With the prequel film being released soon, I guess, I thought I'd want to talk about the first two movies in the series. In case you don't know, the Kingsman Films series started in 2014, being directed by Mathew Vaughn, who you may know for films such as Kick-Ass and X-Men First Class. So, with the intro out of the way, let's start the review. Okay, starting off with Kingsman The Secret Service, which was released in 2014 and had a very big cast. The Taron Egerton, who at the time of the film's release was relatively unknown. This film is essentially what catapulted Egerton into stardom, which is what got him the role of Elton John in Rocket Man. Anyway, the rest of the cast are amazing throughout the movie. Colin Firth as Harry and Mark Strong as Merlin are standouts among others. Another thing I particularly liked about the film was the villain, Samuel L. Jackson as Richmond Valentine. Jackson is pretty good in this film, and his plan, while flawed, is pretty cool. Trying to control the population via Wi-Fi is kind of cool. Another thing I really enjoyed about the movie is how it openly mocks the spy movies in particular, with jabs being thrown at James Bond in particular. I've always thought of Kingsman as 50% James Bond and 50% Austin Powers. Another thing I particularly enjoyed was all the super over-the-top gadgetry, like Harry has an umbrella that's a rifle, a lighter that's actually a hand grenade, and the watch has all these different functions, and the ring that delivers 50,000 volt tasers. These are gadgets you'd expect James Bond to have, which adds some form of comedy to the film. The biggest advantage this film has is the action. Literally every action scene in this movie is amazing. The pub fight is fast cut and put together well. I read somewhere that Colin Firth did most of the stunts himself, and that's pretty impressive, given he's part of one of the biggest set pieces. My favourite fight scene in the entire film was the church fight. My god, that scene is so good, and the song choice, Freebird, fits that scene so well, and I swear I've watched that scene dozens of times, because it's so good. The rest of the action as well is fast cut and timed well. While fast cut action doesn't work for most movies, Quantum of Solace in particular, but here it actually works. Every action set piece in this movie is superb. There's not even one bad scene in this movie. So overall, Kingsman The Secret Service is an extremely enjoyable film. Great cast, great acting, and great action. Props to Mathew Vaughn for this movie. I'm going to give this film a 9.8 out of 10. Moving on now to Kingsman The Golden Circle, which to my understanding a lot of people don't actually like. So, is the film as good as Kingsman 1? No. But is it still an enjoyable movie? Yes, absolutely. And while I liked the movie, there were a few flaws, but we'll talk about the good stuff first. So, cast is great, Taron and Mark are still great, and it's cool to see how they brought back Harry, but I'll get to that later. We're also introduced in the sequel to the Statesmen, the Kingsman's American cousins, and it's been brought up that there's probably other Kingsman agencies across the world, Germany, Russia, Japan, China, probably. And I have to say, the Statesmen are all pretty good for the most part. Jeff Bridges and Halle Berry are standouts among others, and Pedro Pascal is especially great, with that laser whip as well. That's another thing I liked about the movie, all the insane gadgets. It's all this stuff that gives me some James Bond vibes, like Eggsy having a suitcase that can transform into a riot shield, or a London cab that transforms into a submarine. That's definitely a reference to The Spy Who Loved Me, one of Roger Moore's Bond films. That's the stuff that made me love the films in the first place. Okay, now moving on to the stuff that I didn't necessarily like. Firstly, the villain is kind of overrated. While Julianne Moore, I'm sure, is a great actress, she isn't the best villain in the movie because her drugs are basically one of the film's biggest plot holes. If your drugs are contaminated, then nobody will want to buy them, and you'll essentially be out of business. Another thing I didn't like was how Roxy and JB, Eggsy's dog, were just killed at the beginning. It's almost like the films are just trying to raise the stakes. There are a few bad things in the film that I will just list off here. 1. How Harry is brought back. Death has just been cured in the Kingsman universe now. How Harry is for the rest of the film. He's basically a dick. Channing Tatum was underused, like it's as if he's not even there. Then there's the festival scene. If you've watched the film, you'll know what I mean. Eggsy basically has to finger a girl to put a tracking device on her. I mean, good God, who thought of that idea? Apologies for my just loud voice there. Jesus, who thought, hey, you know what's a good idea to move the plot forward? Eggsy fingering a girl. I mean, Taron Egerton didn't even want to do the scene. It just literally felt uncomfortable, and I'll bet Taron agrees with me on that. He didn't even want to film the scene, so they got the actress's boyfriend to do the scene himself. Right, rant over. So overall, Kingsman 2 isn't good or bad, it's just pretty meh, it's sort of in the middle. So I've decided I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. I'm just going to be completely biased towards the film. So, yeah, the Kingsman films are pretty good, and although Kingsman 2 is less than stellar for quite a few reasons that I've just just mentioned, the films are still pretty good for the most part, and I can't wait to see the prequel when it eventually comes out, assuming it has been delayed by the virus. I'm not sure if it has at the time of the recording. So I hope you guys enjoyed this film review. I'm hoping to do a lot more. I might do the Dark Knight Trilogy as well, might even do the MCU again. Sorry, I did a MCU film review again, but that review I don't think included Far From Home, or did it? Not sure if it did. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed and I'll see you soon. Take care.